Hey everyone, and welcome to the ZenPlanner webinar on creating an engaging and secure website. My name is Austin Bonneson, and I'm the Customer Engagement Manager here at ZenPlanner.
I'm Tim Coe. I'm the Web Development Manager here at ZenPlanner.
So today we're going to be chatting with Tim about how to make a website that is both engaging to prospective clients, but also safe and adaptable to any viewer, whether they're on a website, a mobile, iPad, or computer. So Tim works on the websites that we provide as a service in addition to member management software, and has experience creating these websites from scratch with content provided by businesses to make sure that they're engaging their members or potential members that visit their site.
Yeah, and so the 6 main things that we want to make sure are present with any website we build are that they have a valid SSL certificate, they're mobile friendly, have relevant embeds, use calls to action, have a place where prospective members can easily enter their info, and are fast enough to keep a prospect engaged. And that's what we'll be covering a little more in depth today.
Great, so let's go ahead and get started. Cool.
Perfect. So
the first thing we're going to take a look at, and first thing I want to ask you here is, what is SSL compliant, and how can you tell if your site is secure?
So with that, here we have pulled up one of our theme websites, and this is one of the themes that we build for some of our clients. This one we called High and Light, and you can see in the browser the URL window up above, which is just right up here, that it has an HTTPS there, and that means that it is secure. You can also see here that it says secure. That means it has an active SSL certificate on it and that it is working and running. Now, if there is some times where it's grayed out, or even if it's red and crossed out, that means that there's generally an issue with it that you definitely want to dive into and fix. If there's an issue with your SSL certificate, your website generally won't show, especially if someone's like Googling it. They can pull it up in Google. If you have a broken SSL though, it's going to show kind of a red screen that Google puts up saying that this site is not secure. So you want to make sure that it's always green and has that HTTPS there.
Cool. And so what's important? You mentioned mobile friendly. What's important about being mobile friendly?
So with mobile friendly, depending on what you're doing with your business and kind of the different things you're running, we're noticing that a lot more clients are getting a lot more people coming, like mobile traffic, especially if you're doing paid advertising. You know, we run a lot of stuff for our clients for SEM and paid advertising, and we run those through Facebook. And we notice that a lot of the traffic that comes from Facebook for that, about 90 to 97% of it is actually from mobile devices. So making sure that your site is mobile friendly is getting more and more important. One of the ways that you can check, obviously, is by looking just from a mobile phone. But another way that you can check is if you just right click and select Inspect Element. In the upper right hand corner here, you'll see a little button that you can push, and that's going to change you between a mobile view and a desktop view. So we use this a lot to kind of take a look at our site on mobile to make sure that everything is looking good. Now, some of the things that are not going to show on mobile, like what you're seeing here, the way that it's showing this calendar, that's not actually how it will look on mobile. The way that things are coded is a browser generally knows when you're viewing from a mobile device and when you're viewing from a desktop device. So when certain things are being viewed from a desktop device, but you're trying to view them as mobile, they're not going to show the same. So our calendars don't actually look like this on a mobile device. They look a bit different, but because it shows that it's coming from a desktop, it's not switching this embed to the mobile view. But it gives you a pretty good idea of how things are going to look responsive-wise when people come to your site, as far as how everything's laying out, and how good of an experience it is going to be for them. So that is definitely something you want to take a look at. Make sure you're aware of with your own site, and make sure that, you know, one of the biggest things is that your site is responsive, meaning that it adjusts to fit the screen size and that it works and looks well on mobile.
Cool. And one thing I just want to throw out there is for the attendees, you can ask questions in the chat functionality of GoToWebinar. So if you do have questions for either of us while we're talking, feel free to chat those in and we can cover them here either through the text or live on the camera. So The next question is, how do you make embeds look like they're a natural part of the site?
So what we do with our embeds, and just to show you an example here, we'll jump to the home page of this site, select the Start Now button, and this right here is one of our embeds. It's our new lead capture embed. And what we do to make sure that it looks like it's a part of the site is this is actually an iframe, which for those of you that are familiar with it, it means that this is actually a piece of our software. This doesn't technically exist on the website. We're just pulling it from our software and displaying it on the website, but it's controlled by the software. So what we want to do when we're embedding this is just making sure that the background of this is transparent. That way, when we're overlaying it on either a light or dark background, like you can see this one here is a light background, it lays in seamlessly. A lot of times what we see is clients will put a different color background on this embed or on the schedule embed or any of the other embeds, and it doesn't work well with the rest of the site. It starts to make it look like it's a different piece, and that's not the greatest user experience for your visitors. So like on here, just making sure that all the colors match, the background is transparent, so that way you can't see where the embed stops and our website actually starts.
Cool. And what are some calls to action, and why do they matter for prospective members?
So calls to action, a lot of people have the idea that a call to action is generally right in the main area right here, which that is one call to action, but there's actually a lot of call to actions on your site that a lot of people don't think about. Some of the simplest ones are going to be call us today with your phone number up here and an email address. This one over here, we have memberships and it's highlighted in red, so it calls the user's attention to it, because at the end of the day, your website is designed to convert people either into leads or get them to sign up for memberships. So you want to make sure all of those things are standing out. And then one of the last ones and the biggest one, the one that people are most familiar with, are going to be generally right in the center of the page with a clear call to action. We just have a very generic one on here, which is create a better you, get started today, no obligation, first class is free. And then the Start Now button opens up in what's called a modal. And then we have, we'd love to hear from you with additional information. So these are your calls to action. You want to make sure that these are one of the first things on your page when a visitor lands on it. They want to see a clear call to action. That's what's going to get you a lot of leads. Now, if you have a blog post on there or just an image that doesn't have that, people aren't going to be sure what they're going to do, and they're just going to start browsing through your site. While that is fine, at the end of the day, your site is to get leads. And that's what you wanted to do. That's what helps grow your business. And that is kind of the bread and butter right there. So making sure that you have very clear calls to action. If you have something great going on, with our SEM service that we provide for our clients, we have noticed that calls to action that include a free trial, a free week, anything like that converts really, really well. We have had clients that have tried calls to action using a dollar amount or a discount, and we have seen that those actually don't convert as well as a free trial. So with the call to action, having that free trial in there, getting them into your business so that you can kind of talk to them one-on-one is what's going to get you that better conversion.
Cool. Yeah, and I see that phone number and email address right up in the top left. How important is that to have just right at the top of your website?
So these are very important right here. Kind of what we do with our sites here is we want to have as much information as possible about our business and how to get in contact with us above the fold. Now, what above the fold means is that's kind of an industry term, meaning that when they land on your page, everything that they see right here is considered above the fold. Once they scroll down, that's considered below the fold. So above the fold, there's some important pieces that you want to have. First and foremost is a phone number and email address. You don't want them searching around. If they're just looking to call you, especially if they're on a mobile device like you guys saw earlier, that shows really apparent right there. These are also click to call. As you can see, when I hover over it, it comes up with that little finger, and as well as the email address. That means that on a mobile device, especially if they click on that phone number or they click on that email address, it's going to call directly from their mobile phone, or it'll pull up their email app and it'll auto-populate it with this email address and they can send you an email. So those two things are very important to have on it. The other things that we also have are, your social media over here, your memberships, your call to action, and this final button here, which allows them to call you, contact you, and get entered as a prospect.
Cool. And as far as site speed goes, you want to make sure, obviously, that you have a website that loads quickly so that members or prospective members don't click on it and then it takes so long to load that they, leave the site and check out a different site. So how do you test your site speed and what kind of numbers are you looking for there?
So there's a couple of different ways that you can test your site speed, just depending on what you're comfortable with. The way that I use is I simply use the inspect element here. Over on this side here, if you select network and then reload the page, you'll see that it's loading everything over here and the page here is loaded. Now, one thing you'll notice is that even though the page was loaded, it was still loading additional information in here, and that's completely normal for a website. It's going to load from cache first, and then in the back end, it's going to load all the rest of the files for the site. But what we're going to look at when we do that is down here. The DOM content loaded 1.38 seconds. That is how fast your site loads. This load right here of the 3.77 seconds is going to be all the rest of the files with it. So this one is not as important, just depending on how much you have loading. This one right here is the one that you do want to watch. Now, there is also other tools that you can look at. We preloaded Pingdom right here, which is another really popular tool to use. I've noticed that lately it's becoming so much more popular that sometimes I'll go in to test a client's site and there could be a wait time of like several minutes sometimes just to test the load time. So that's why I kind of switched over to using this inspect element. It gives very similar data. Now, when we tested it on here, it was showing a load time of 2.12 seconds, which is still very good. Generally, what you're looking for is 4 seconds or less. The lower you can get below that, the better. If you can get 1 second or less, that's even better. But there's a lot of variables that really go into that. Your internet speed, how many people are using the internet at that time, your computer, your browser. So it's not always the most accurate thing. The one thing that you really just want to watch that is the most important is when you refresh your page or you go to your page, how quickly does it load? And as you can see from here, I refreshed it and you couldn't even see that it was reloading, but it did. And that's a good user experience. Now, if you're refreshing your page and it's taking several seconds, that can be bad because you don't have a lot of time to convince someone to stay. Generally less than 4 seconds. If it takes longer than that, people are going to start leaving your site. So we're going to jump back over to Pingdom real quick so I can show you guys just a few more things over here that you do want to watch for. So if you're having issues with slow load times on your site, that's where this information down here comes in handy. Now, a lot of people see this and they're just like, this is a whole bunch of information that I don't understand. But all this information is just everything that's loading when the site loads. As you can see, you can hover over any of these details and it's going to give you the additional information on. So what we're hovering over is the weights 561 by 422 JPEG, which this is an image on the site. So the send was 0 milliseconds, wait was 115 milliseconds, and receive was 295 milliseconds for a total of 410 milliseconds, which is about a half a second. That's fast, that's right where we want it to be. Now, if you come in here and you see any of these that are taking, 1, 2, or 3 seconds to load, that's gonna let you know what you wanna change, especially with images in here. This image size is 113K. If you have an image that's 1 megabyte, 2 megabyte, 3 megabytes, those can generally bog down your load times. And what you're gonna wanna do is just edit that image so that it's a smaller image size. And that will generally fix the loading speed. Now, there's a lot of other things that you can do, such as caching. database caching, stuff like that. And if you get into those issues, it's always best to contact a developer to help you out and take a look at it for you. But that's kind of just a general outline of what you want to look for, how fast you want your site to go, and what it should look like when you're browsing your own site. So we got a question from Jeff about no concerns about mining of your published email address and getting it spammed. No, we've had this email address up there for quite some time, and we really don't get any spam to it. One of the bigger issues that you'll run into generally with mining, Jeff, especially on a WordPress site, is going to be bots looking to leave blog comments. That is a place where we actually have seen people get hit. And just so I can kind of show you what I'm talking about here. Now, these are just dummy blog posts. These aren't real blog posts, so this is just gibberish in here. But as you can see on here, a lot of times people will run into issues because they'll leave this section here open for comments. Now, there's a lot of information about, like, should you leave your blog open for comments or should you not? It can go a couple of different ways. We have left those open for comments before per client's request. And because WordPress is so popular, you know, they're saying that it's between 20 and 30% of the internet is now built on WordPress, that a lot of those spam bots out there are targeting WordPress specific sites, and they're looking for the blog, and they're looking to be able to spam the blog post with their affiliate links or whatever else they're trying to do. And that's generally where they're going to hit. So you do have the option in WordPress in the back end to turn that off. We have had clients get hit with that before. It was not a great experience. And we went in and turned those off. And that's generally where we get hit. But as far as your email address, we really have not been hit by any spam with those. So I don't see any issue with that.
Cool. And anything else that you want to share at all as far as anything to optimize your website?
I'd say at the end of the day is making sure that simple is kind of what you want to go with. With a lot of the clients that we work with, we work directly with a lot of clients when we're building out their sites for them. And one of the hardest things for clients to understand is you don't need to have tons and tons and tons and tons of information on your website, especially on the homepage. Your website should be designed to get you leads. That's what it's there to do. That's what you need it to do. You don't need paragraphs of information or anything like that. They actually say that only about 7% of the people that come to your site here will actually read this information here. Most people are going to browse and they're going to see these headlines, they're going to see the call to action button, and they're going to keep going. But only about 7% of people are actually going to take the time to read through longer content. So you really do want to avoid those, especially on the homepage. Save those for your blog. If you have something you want to blog about, that's great to do on your blog, and that's also excellent for SEO. If you look around at your competitors, and we do this a lot for our clients with our SEM service that we provide, is we take a look at their competitors and see what their competitors are doing. And 99 times out of 100, their competitors are not blogging. And so by simply blogging on your website, you're going to give yourself a nice boost. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. It doesn't have to be anything in depth. It can be a couple hundred words. Anything that you can do to blog regularly a couple times a month is going to help out your website. It's going to help your traffic, and it's going to help your SEO a ton. And then the other thing too is making sure, you know, your phone number, your email address, and then, sorry about that, at the bottom here, making sure that your actual physical address is also down here too. That's pretty important for your SEO where you're doing your local directory listings, getting that all set up. Google does see that, and it matches those with your other directory listings. So that's super important to make sure that those are all tied together as well.
And for people who may not know, can you just kind of speak to what SEO is and what that stands for?
Sure. So SEO is search engine optimization. Now there's a lot of talk around it right now, and I think unfortunately a lot of misinformation about it. A lot of people think that they need to be ranked, you know, #1 in Google for a very specific key term and stuff like that. And that's unfortunately not the case, especially with a lot of our clients that have fitness businesses. What we're looking at is they don't need to be ranked #1 for CrossFit, which would be more of a national term, when they're located in maybe like a smaller town. So one of the things that you look into doing, one of the things that we do for our clients when we're running our SEM service, is we really focus on the local directory listings. Getting you listed in directories is extremely important, and it helps your local SEO. But the other thing too is paid advertising. We run paid advertising campaigns for our clients through Facebook because it's very affordable, it's very easy to do, and they get a really good return on their investment. So you don't have to put as much out, and you get a lot back in return. With SEO, you know, I used to work for an SEO firm in Denver, and SEO can get very expensive very quickly. And a lot of our clients, you know, with a smaller fitness business, or if you're just starting off, you don't have $500, $600, $700 a month extra to pay a company to do SEO for you. And so when you're looking at that, I say you really don't need that. That's for, you know, bigger companies. The thing that you really need is those local directory listings, getting those all set up in like the top 15, which we do for our clients, and then paid advertising. Paid advertising is very cheap. It's very effective. You get to control it a lot more. If you're getting a lot of leads in the door, you can kind of slow it down if you need to. You can speed it up if you need to by spending more cash. So it's a lot more effective way to run your business, and it's a lot easier to figure out how many leads you need to get versus on how much you need to spend. With SEO, you're kind of at the mercy of Google. If Google changes their algorithm one day, they could easily drop you off of the first place, or even drop you off of the entire first page, and there's nothing you can do about that. So to me, if I was running a business, I don't want to put my business in the hands of Google. I'd rather have more control over the leads and the traffic that's generated from it. And to do that, I would use paid advertising and then local SEO listings.
Cool.
Yeah, that's all I got.
All right. So all of this information is applicable if you're building your own website, if you have someone building a website for you. As Tim has mentioned, and as his job description implies, ZenPlanner does offer website services. Otherwise, take this information, apply it to your own website that you have already built out, and test your site speed, make sure it's secure, all of that to make sure that your website is doing the work for you and making sure that it's bringing people into your business. So that's all we had for today. Thanks for joining, and we will see you next time.